Hey, what's happening, gamers? Welcome back to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Yeah!
And today we're looking at the brand new character, the Hero from Dragon Quest.
Ooh.
So Hero joins the battle.
Woo-hoo.
Yes.
So
and
excited.
New stage, new music.
New DLC character, right, Luke?
Yep, new DLC character, the Hero from Dragon Quest, which you guys, who are my age, might remember the series being called Dragon Warrior on the NES. And that's because they didn't trademark the name Dragon Quest.
Look at that Mii Fighter costume!
Really?
I like it.
And there's Goku.
It's...
Not Goku.
Wait, that's not Chun-Li, is it?
No, they're
Goku and,
No, it's not Goku and Chi-Chi.
Oh, man.
But it's by the guy who made Goku and Chi-Chi. Toriyama is the one responsible for the character designs for Dragon Quest and Dragon Warrior. So today we're doing Classic Mode, which, you guessed it, we're doing Dragon Quest, the Hero. So that's...
I like that voice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Narrator.
So, the Hero has different characters. So this guy is from Dragon Quest 11, which he is named 11. Then we have the main hero from Dragon Warrior 3 on the NES.
Spiky hair.
And I believe this guy is from Dragon Warrior 4, but I don't remember. He could also be from the Super Famicom games, which did not release in America until later on the DS.
Angry blue-haired guy.
This is my man 8 from Dragon Quest 8, which was on the PS2 in 2005.
8.
And then it goes back to 11. So I'm going to be playing as my man 8. Yeah.
All right, and I have to play as somebody... I guess I can play as a Dragon Quest
Yeah,
character.
go for it. Be whichever one you want. And just a reminder, guys and gals, we'll be looking at Dragon Quest 11 when it releases on the Switch this September. Okay, so you're going with old school. I like it.
I'm kicking it old school.
Yeah, totally. And there's actually a funny story why it was called Dragon Warrior in the States and not Dragon Quest. It
Oh, really?
just had to do with Enix, a very big RPG company,
Yeah.
did not trademark Dragon Quest in the US, so they had to go with Dragon Warrior.
Oh, okay.
I know, pretty basic, right?
Definitely. No, we're against an army of Kirby's, the worst kind.
They're supposed to represent the blue slimes, which are a creature in Dragon Quest.
Oh.
Yeah, they're just like basic little enemies, little slimes. Slimes get parodied a lot in anime shows.
Yeah, we were just watching an anime that had these slimes in it.
Yep. Well, they had a type of slime.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the slimes are just annoying little enemies that they have some magic spells and things like that, but
Yeah.
it's who you would encounter at the beginning of a Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior game.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool to know.
Yes!
Have you ever played any... Oh, good job.
I have played Dragon Warrior 1 through 4, and some of the DS games were the re-releases of the Famicom games that never... Super Famicom, that never made it over to the States. Because, well, kind of Enix gave up on the American market and only did Dragon Quest games after 4 for non-US.
Oh, okay, I see.
And that has to do with Square's dominance of the RPG market for the Super Nintendo with games like the Final Fantasy franchise and Chrono Trigger.
Oh, no, Trigger!
So they stuck to Japan and grew their dominance in Japan. At one point, Dragon Quest was bigger than Final Fantasy in Japan. It still is, actually.
Whoa! Yeah, and that's... I mean, that's where we get Dragon Quest Builders, which you're playing right now.
I am playing it every other night. It's a lot of fun.
And I loved watching you play the first one, and you're having even more fun playing the second one.
Oh, the second one is so much better. Yep.
And I like it a lot better than the other building games like Minecraft and things like that. I actually...
It's because it has a story and
many ways I like it better. I mean,
character development.
So many things that are added to it than just a basic building game. So you guys definitely need to check out Dragon Quest Builders
2.
2.
It's available on the Nintendo Switch, and it's also available on the PS4, which we're playing the PS4 version.
Yep.
You already ate, you crazy cat!
You already ate, Shadow. I almost called her Katita, which is the name of my cat when I was a little kid. Your name is Shadow. Yeah.
Yep. So in the comment section below, tell us your favorite Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior game. And if you've never played a Dragon Quest game, which one are you interested in? Because Nintendo pretty much has all of them now. Almost.
Alright, I might get this fact wrong, but... Okay, for the Dragon Quest Builder games, you said that Toriyama had something to do with the...
Yep, Toriyama from Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super.
Yeah, the characters and stuff. Was he involved in the other Dragon Quest games too, or...?
He's always involved in creating the characters. It's his character designs. That's why when people see a certain character, they're like, oh my gosh, that looks like Goku or Vegeta. It's like, that's because that's the only thing Toriyama really draws.
Cool, so he... Wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
Have you ever played the Dragon Quest games with me before?
No.
Oh, okay, alright.
I wanted to show you Dragon Quest VIII on the PS2 in 2005, but we did not bring our PS2 with us when we went to college like a year later. We put it in storage. So we just... I believe the system we took with us was the GameCube because we were playing the Lego games together, like the Lego Star Wars games when they first came out, which was back on GameCube and PS2, if people didn't know that.
So the reason why we haven't heard a lot about Dragon Quest games in the States is because they didn't want to compete with games like Chrono Trigger.
They couldn't. Enix was a very big RPG company in America from like 1986 to about like we'll say 94. And Square really took off with their Final Fantasy brand right around the time of, I want to say Final Fantasy VI. They also released the games much faster than Dragon Quest could.
Cool.
So there was like a new Final Fantasy like every other year or something like that.
Oh, right.
Uh-oh. Get him!
So if it wasn't for Final Fantasy, we probably would have seen a lot more Dragon Quest.
A lot of people ask me, they're like, so... You played a lot of Final Fantasy games. It's like, yeah, but not really on the NES. My RPG of choice was Dragon Warrior. I did Dragon Warrior 1 through 4 on the NES.
So that is why, especially, Dragon Quest Builders holds a special place in your little heart.
Oh yeah, because they're still using the same music and fanfare and stuff like that, and it's all Dragon Warrior stuff. In fact, you were listening to Dragon Warrior stuff in the car today.
Yeah, and I said, are you listening to classical music? Because I thought you were suddenly a fan of classical music. And I thought, wow, this is... Well, you do listen to a lot of orchestrated music in the car all the time and in the house and stuff. And when you're in your office, because you're the one who introduced me to all this really amazing Japanese music, whether in the game or also just regular Japanese orchestra music, which, there's a whole bunch of Japanese instrumental music out there.
Whoops. We'll continue.
Okay, we'll continue.
Use a ticket. May as well.
And you love Yanni, but that's beside the point.
I haven't listened to that stuff in a long time.
Yeah. Well, someday when I actually don't have to go to school every day anymore, Luke, so I may have to just, bust into one of your Dragon Quest Builder streams.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
I've liked watching you play it because you just enjoy making people bad houses that are mean to you.
Well, I mean, that's not what the game looked like when I was a kid or anything like that, but the music sounds very similar to like the original Dragon Quest games.
Yeah.
Whereas, I knew them Dragon Warrior. In fact, I didn't even know that it wasn't called Dragon Quest in America. I thought the franchise was always Dragon Warrior, and they changed it to Dragon Quest when Square Enix merged with Enix, or Squaresoft merged with Enix in 2003. Because,
Because that's all that we knew it by was Dragon Warrior.
Yeah, in America, that's what we knew it by, Dragon Warrior. Exactly.
Even though that wasn't actually, we didn't know that wasn't really its
Well, no.
name.
The world was not as connected today as, back in the day.
Yes.
It was, almost like worlds were separate,
As Jack
by
Sparrow
language
says.
barrier and all kinds of stuff.
The world is smaller now.
I want to say video games helped with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Just talking to people just in regular day-to-day conversation, the people that play games online, they're so much more aware of like different people from different cultures and countries and stuff than a lot of people are. That's how they meet people from all over the world, is playing games.
Yep. Oops.
Well, I definitely feel like games did such a tremendous, like, made such a huge impact on the difference between, like, American and Japanese cultures, like, bringing both of those cultures together. Like, games were, like, a huge influence. They probably were for a lot of other cultures, too, that I just am not aware of.
Well, the difference, too, between Dragon Quest and Final Fantasy is the characters have that Dragon Ball appeal, you know? So people see it and they're like, oh my gosh, Toriyama. But at the same time, the story, I always argued that the better RPGs from the 90s were Dragon Warrior, not Final Fantasy. Because the story, the characters, it was just more fun and more interesting. You know, Final Fantasy was like, this is the Final Fantasy of this world. Whereas Dragon Quest was like, let's go on an adventure and fight dragons and save everything, you know?
That's what I'm talking about.
And they all had like a rich continuity too. Like the games are all connected. The hero sword is used by so many different heroes, you know, over time. In fact, this game has a cool final smash where you can see a lot of the Dragon Quest previous wielders.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It just gets me really excited to see now that they're in Smash Brothers. Think about what happened to Fire Emblem when they were included in Smash, how much they blew up.
Oh my gosh.
Dragon Quest is still kind of a very not well-known series in the Western world, but with Smash Brothers now, you know, that gives Square a huge opportunity to really blow up Dragon Quest.
Yeah.
That's my thinking for it anyway.
Oops, I went the wrong way.
Yes,
yeah, well, I mean, the only thing I would worry about is if, you know, it became more mainstream, then it would be mainstream.
It is mainstream in Japan. There's been anime,
I mean,
there's been
in Japan.
manga, all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, just the, I don't know, just the story of Dragon Quest Builders, when you were explaining to me the story about this guy and he was... Oh my gosh.
You got me.
Whoa, you're right, it does do all the...
Yep, and you can see they're all using the same sword or
the Dragon Quest characters, that's cool, Luke. Well, yeah, like, this guy saves your life, and then you have to, like, he's following you. It's just, it was really, it was riveting, the story, and I was like, man, that's a pretty dark and deep story for a tiny little chibi game about building. I was like, that's pretty intense.
No, it's fun.
Intense story.
I really like Dragon Quest a lot. So, I mean, to see them in Smash Brothers, it makes me happy, but at the same time, a lot of people are like, oh no, not another sword character. But what they don't understand is Square and Enix were rivals. They had two different properties. Enix had their own games, and maybe you guys remember some of them that are my age. ActRaiser, Illusion of Gaia. These were all Enix properties. They weren't Square. Square had Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and some other stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
So... I mean, it's pretty amazing to, you know, see finally Dragon Quest. And
my problem is with Square merged with, you know, Enix, there wasn't really that many Dragon Quest games anymore. Like, the focus seemed to be on Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
In fact, there's only been 11 Dragon Quest games, not counting the spin-offs that I can think of. Whereas Final Fantasy, they've made 15, 16, 17, like, Final Fantasy, you know, numerical games, or whatever you want to call them.
All right.
Whereas Dragon Quest, in the franchise, it only goes up to 11. And that was still a couple years back on, I believe, a PS4 or PS3, I don't remember.
All right, so to help my wifey mind that's not as fluent in gamer as you, so what you're saying is Enix were the people that were making Dragon Quest.
Yep.
And Square were the people making Final Fantasy.
Yep, that's the easiest way to do that.
And then when they merged together, they weren't really...
They combined all their properties, but Dragon Quest kind of took...
Got the short end of the stick.
Well, I mean, in a way, but they also had the ability to bring a lot of the games that Enix kind of gave up on in America. And when the DS was really just starting to kick off, then you were like, oh, let's bring those Super Famicom games that we never released over here and put them on the DS. And they found new life on the DS. And new fans.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know what's happening right now, we fought a sorcerer, and then usually what happens in Dragon Quest is after you fight the sorcerer, you fight the dragon. So Charizard,
Yeah.
dressed in purple, is supposed to be the dragon.
I mean, it's pretty cool that we actually happen to have a dragon in, because of Charizard, because of Pokemon, we actually have a dragon in this game.
I know, it works out pretty well. Boom!
Very creative.
I did better on my stream, but I had more fun here, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm completely distracting you by asking you the entire story of Dragon.
Oh, I can't tell you the story. The story goes all over the place. I can just tell you what it was like back then. And there was a very small group of gamers that I knew in the 90s that played Dragon Warrior. You know, and a lot of us were really bummed because there wasn't really a reason given why Dragon Warrior didn't come to the Super Nintendo. It was just kind of like, well, here it is still on the NES. I guess that's cool. But Final Fantasy was making huge strides on the Super Nintendo, you know? And then it was kind of like, that was it. But PlayStation tried to bring a couple Dragon Warrior games over to the States, but they didn't do very well. I think it was Dragon Warrior 6 or 7 that released in 2000 on the PlayStation. I don't remember though, but it had full motion video with Toriyama's art and stuff like that, so anime fans ate it up in the West for a while.
I just had this idea randomly as you were talking about all these things, because I love listening to you talk about just, you know, the different games you played and how it felt to play this when it first came out, and just gaming in the 80s and 90s and stuff. I was just thinking, like, I'm making this giant recipe book of all my recipes for school. And I was like, I should get another giant notebook and write down all the information about each game and the history of it, and just take notes while you talk and make this giant, like, folder.
That would be a very big...
And then I would publish it. K-Wife's notes on everything that K-Wing likes to talk about. It would be like 1,000 pages long, if not more.
I mean, pretty long. I mean, just you and I in our YouTube career, we've covered close to 300 games.
Well, it's not just the history, but it's also like hearing about what people felt like when they played it and how this game was different than other games and just like how the game affected the industry and everything. I mean, there's so much to gaming history that...
according to my Playground friends, Dragon Warrior was a very obscure game because Mr. Pete always had, whenever I wanted to play them, Dragon Warrior 1 through 4 on the NES were sitting right there. It'd be, you know...
Aww.
Because my family didn't like me owning RPGs or something like that sometimes, so I was worried that if I bought it, it would get thrown away. I eventually did get all the Dragon Warrior games from Pete. Like, he gave me all. That was part of, like, my NES collection that I got, which I didn't mean to part with those NES games, but when I, you know, traded in all those games to buy your ring, the Dragon Warrior games were actually pretty rare, so they, you know.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'm hoping that Nintendo will re-release the Dragon Warrior games on their NES service here on the Switch, because that'd be cool.
So that's some of the games that you turned in to get my ring?
Yeah, they were part of that, like, 200 NES games.
When I become a baker, I'll have to buy them back with my baking money.
I have no room for all those cartridges anymore.
I'll get a small warehouse, I'll build it.
I also have, like, tons of games on my NES. Remember we made it better? The NES Classic. There are way more games on there.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys and gals, we hope you had a lot of fun with the Classic Mode. That is going to do it for our look at Dragon Quest Hero.
Yeah.
Had a little hiccup there. But we're going to be starting our Versus series tomorrow, so come back for that. And later tonight, I have a stream with Hero from Dragon Quest versus the world. So if you just want to hang out, talk to me, all that fun stuff, I'll be doing a stream around 8, 9 o'clock tonight. And we've got Smash Brothers Versus for you guys for the next 2 weeks. So please tell us who you want to see, because we're going to record some episodes right now. But until we meet again, God bless and happy gaming. Check out the Hero. You get 4 different versions of him from really great Dragon Quest games. And make sure you guys try at least Dragon Quest XI when it comes out this September. God bless and happy gaming.
See ya!